So, we're told we can manifest anything, that reality bends to our will if we just believe enough. But is that true? Or is there a limit to how much control we actually have? In this video, we're diving into the paradox of manifestation. How much influence do we truly have over our reality, and how much remains a mystery? If you've ever wondered how much control you really have, or questioned why some manifestations just don't happen, then keep watching. You should stay with me because what I'm about to reveal might just change the way you see manifestation and reality itself. We'll explore whether every desire is truly possible, the complexities of free will, and the hidden mysteries behind what we can and can't control. We're even going to take a closer look at the famous Bible verse often linked to the multiverse theory and see if it really holds up. Let's dive into the unknown. Manifestation, a proven reality or an unsolved mystery? There's no doubt manifestation is real. We see evidence of it every day. People attracting wealth, love, success, and opportunities seemingly out of nowhere. But it's not always consistent. Sometimes, no matter how hard you visualize or, quote, live in the end, quote, the outcome doesn't manifest. Why? If we truly have the power to create anything, then what explains the failed manifestations that no one wants to talk about? The unanswered prayers, the dreams that never come true, no matter how intensely they are visualized and desired. If you've ever heard of Neville Goddard, you're quite familiar with the SATS technique, the state akin to sleep, where you visualize and use all the five senses to bring in the tones of reality. That's supposed to bring about your desire. But the question we're trying to explore here is there a limit to manifestation's power? Or are we humans limited to how much we can use in this game of life? What if manifestation exists within a larger cosmic framework where certain outcomes are predetermined, or at least influenced by forces beyond our control? What if some aspects of reality are simply meant to remain mysterious, unknowable, and beyond human influence? Are humans throttled with our understanding the same way your internet service provider throttles how fast you can upload something because you're using the internet too much? Let's take a deeper dive into this. In quantum physics, the observer effect suggests that our consciousness influences the behavior of particles, implying that reality itself responds to our awareness. But even quantum physicists admit that not everything is influenced by observation. Certain phenomena, like radioactive decay, occur randomly without any observer input. So this raises a profound question. Are there aspects of reality that are inherently random or governed by laws beyond human influence? If so, then manifestation may work within boundaries set by a greater intelligence or cosmic order. Taking on a philosophical perspective, the ancient Greeks believed in Moira, the concept of fate or destiny that even the gods could not change. In this view, some outcomes are preordained and must unfold regardless of human desire. Additionally, Stoicism teaches that while we have control over our inner states and choices, the external world follows its own order. This echoes the paradox of manifestation that I'm talking about here. We influence reality, but we don't control it absolutely. However, many manifestation coaches sell the idea that you can have, be, or do whatever you want. You just have to assume it to be already yours or assume that it's done. It sounds simple, but it's just not. For some of us, anyway. Moving on to an esoteric thought, in Hermeticism, the principle of mentalism states that the universe is mind and reality is shaped by consciousness. If you're interested in this subject, you should check out the book The Kabbalion by the Three Initiates. But this principle also acknowledges the principle of cause and effect, suggesting that not all events are subject to human will. Some are the result of cosmic forces. Could it be that manifestation is a co-creative process with a higher intelligence, and that some outcomes are influenced by forces beyond our understanding? I totally believe in this, especially when people are trying to manifest a general outcome. They're not specifying anything directly, they're just allowing things to unfold and become more beautiful in ways they could have never imagined. I personally think this is a great way to manifest, but the coaching industry is hardcore selling this idea that you can have an SP or your specific person. Some people get that person and some people don't. Maybe some people were just always meant to get back together or find their way to each other. Maybe, and people, claim that as an SP success. Meanwhile, some relationships are just over, perhaps. I'm just speculating here. I really would love your input below. Nobody has a way to really track all of this progress. It's hard to measure it anyway because we don't know how much you believed in it or how much you thought it was possible. There's all kinds of variables that can't be measured that don't give an accurate assessment. So we just can't get an actual read on this phenomenon. Can you have a specific person or not? Personally, I tried for like 3 years to be with someone. And did I get movement with them? Yes. Did we stay involved somewhat? But did I ever get that relationship I really wanted? No, I didn't. And I did all the things. And if I ever mentioned to a coach, hey, I'm doing all these things, and then they would say, well, because you're aware of these shortcomings or these other, perceived failures, because you're aware of it, that's what you're experiencing. So it was like this never ending way of justifying that it just didn't work for me. Anyway, I digress. So all of this leads to a fascinating paradox. If some things are beyond our influence, does that mean they are meant to happen? And if so, is the true power of manifestation not about controlling every outcome, but about aligning with the flow of life's greater purpose? Let's explore a little bit of the spectrum of manifestation. Where are the limits? Specifically, let's look at micro versus macro manifestations. Micro manifestations, which I fully believe in, are these small shifts, attracting signs, serendipitous moments. These often happen frequently and with ease because you're not attached to it. You don't care if they happen or not. So then you just get the joy of experiencing them when they do happen. It's really fun. Like, say you all of a sudden say, okay, I see lots of yellow cars on the road. One day when I did that, I literally saw like 6 or 7, and cars that I didn't even know they made those tones of yellow. It was crazy. You can also attribute that to confirmation bias, where if you give your brain a job to do, it's going to seek evidence to prove this theory. Anyhow, micro manifestations are major life changes like influencing other people's behaviors, shifting timelines, or manifesting large-scale realities. These are much more complex. There are Lots of manifestation coaches out there that tell you to do this one technique and your whole world will change. I've tried all of them, and I never once experienced this life-changing, world completely turned reality. It's just the promises that are made. I think it's time to bring some reality back into that. Where is the tipping point between what we can directly create and what unfolds on its own? How much influence do we really have over others? And how much is the result of their own choices? Neville Goddard explores this in this very popular principle called everyone is you pushed out. And I've heard coaches say stuff like, oh, other people can only think what you think they're thinking about you. I don't know. I tried this and I've tried this out a little bit and it can influence a little bit. But not always. I think manifestation coaches are really quick to dismiss free will because they go back to this multiverse theory, and we'll get more into that. But I think other people have more influence than we realize. And so the thought everyone is you pushed out, meaning other people's actions reflect your own beliefs. But if that's true, why do people behave in ways that defy our expectations? Is it possible that people mirror our energy, but ultimately have the free will to choose their actions? Others can reflect our inner state, but is this entirely accurate? In psychology, we know that people have complex inner worlds shaped by their own experiences, beliefs, and traumas, and learned patterns, and all kinds of variables go into this. It would be reductive to say that their actions are solely a reflection of our thoughts. Attachment theory suggests that people's behaviors and relationships are influenced by deep-seated patterns formed in childhood. If someone is avoidant, it's not necessarily because we are manifesting their avoidance, but because they are acting from their own wounds. In quantum mechanics, the concept of entanglement suggests that particles can influence each other instantaneously, regardless of distance. This implies a level of interconnectedness that may explain why our thoughts seem to influence each other. However, quantum physicists argue that entanglement does not override free will. Just because particles are connected doesn't mean they lose their individual properties. Could this be the same for people? And from a spiritual perspective, the law of one teachings state that while we are all interconnected, each soul has sovereignty and free will. We can influence others energetically, but they still have the freedom to respond as they choose. We can influence others energetically, but they still have the freedom to respond as they choose. This aligns with the idea that manifestation influences but does not control. Let me take us on an introspective reflection here. If others truly have free will, then the ethical question arises, should we even try to manifest a specific person's actions? If manifestation meant to control, is manifestation meant to control, or is it meant to align us with what is meant for us? Is the purpose of manifestation to influence others or to transform ourselves into the version of us that aligns with the love, peace, and fulfillment that we seek? Neville Goddard would say, there's no one to change but the self. So we could borrow from that perspective. No one to change but you. So let's get back to, can we manifest anything? Or is there a greater intelligence at play? Many believe that if you can imagine it, then it must be possible. But is that actually true? Some desires come effortlessly, while others never materialize, no matter how much we visualize or persist. Why? Well, there's the co creation theory that manifestation is not just about our desires, but a co creative process with a greater intelligence or consciousness. If that's true, then manifestation isn't about forcing a specific outcome, but aligning with what is meant for us. So we don't specify what person. We say we want the love of our life, but we don't get to pick Johnny or Susie. And could it be that some desires are not meant to come to fruition, not because we failed to manifest them, but because they don't align with our highest good or life path? This is a conundrum I think most coaches find themselves in, because everybody wants to hear that they can have that specific person. I think I hear coaches on their various channels saying, oh, let's give an example of an SP situation because most of you are trying to get an SP. But maybe we need to move away from that. Maybe that's just setting people up for constant disappointment. I know I spent so much time thinking like, what am I doing wrong? What am I not understanding here? I'm doing all the things. I'm getting a little bit of some movement, getting some interaction. It's looking like it's going in that way, and then it just doesn't happen. And I was thinking all the right things, or so I thought, but any coach would be like, oh, yeah, maybe it's your self-concept. Maybe you just didn't believe it's enough. Maybe you're just focused on what you don't want, the unfavorable. I mean, there's always an excuse, right? So for them, it's a never-ending, it's a very profitable business, and that cannot be overlooked. So it does not profit a manifestation coach to tell you, maybe you can't have that person. What if that person is not energetically open to it? What if all the SP successes just happen to be with someone who was already somewhat open energetically to the idea? Maybe that's the missing piece that's needed. Let me know in the comments below what you think. So perhaps there is a greater intelligence at play that sometimes overrides what our human wants in order to guide us toward what we truly need. So why do some desires never manifest, no matter how hard we try? Could it be that some desires are just not meant to come to fruition? You know, Now I'd like to talk about the role of divine timing. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the concept of divine timing. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the concept of divine timing, the belief that certain things can only unfold when the time is right. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the idea of karma suggests that certain experiences are meant to unfold based on past actions or lessons the soul needs to learn. In Christianity, the concept of God's will suggests that some desires are not granted because they are not aligned with God's greater plan. Is it possible that manifestation aligns with a larger cosmic order where our desires are granted only when they resonate with a higher purpose? And then there's the co-creation theory, which suggests that reality is a collaborative dance between human will and that greater intelligence. These are all basically saying the same thing. We get to influence this, but only within the boundaries of what is meant to unfold. And this is mentioned in the Kabbalah. that, we're allowed to have free will, but it remains involved in the unfolding of events. This implies that our desires are granted, again, if they only align with the divine order. In New Thought spirituality, the concept of higher self suggests that we have a deeper, wiser aspect of consciousness that guides us toward our highest good. Carl Jung referred to this as the self, the unifying force of consciousness that aligns with our true purpose. And if the higher self has a broader perspective, it could be filtering our desires, allowing only those that align with our soul's mission to manifest. So, manifestation isn't necessarily about getting everything that we want, but about becoming aligned with who we really are. And we may not always fully understand who that is. I also want to talk about the multiverse theory. Can we really jump timelines? This theory suggests that every possible version of reality already exists. And by aligning our consciousness, we can jump into the version we desire. This theory is very popular among manifestation coaches who claim that if you're not experiencing the version of someone you want, you can simply shift to the reality where they are who you want them to be. But is that true? And if it is, why doesn't it work for everyone? Can we really jump timelines and experience different versions of reality? Some people claim that they do it all the time. And if multiple versions of a person exist, do they each have free will? Or are they merely reflections of our consciousness with no autonomy of their own? If you shift to a version of someone who is loving and open, is that truly them or just a projection of your desire? The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every decision creates a branching timeline, leading to an infinite number of parallel universes. If you haven't checked out the Jennifer Connelly and Joel Edgerton, I think that's his name, show called Dark Matter on Apple Television. There's so much good content on Apple, by the way. But Dark Matter, it encompasses this completely. Try the 3-month free trial if you don't have it. There's such good stuff on that channel and that streaming service. Anyway, back to the quantum mechanics theory here. This view, every possible version of reality exists simultaneously, and consciousness merely chooses which version to experience. Hugh Everett, which is the physicist who proposed this theory, suggested that each version of reality is equally real. And if all versions are equally real, then are we truly creating reality or simply selecting from pre-existing options? And if all choices are made, does that mean free will is an illusion and we are merely experiencing the unfolding of predetermined paths? Could it be that manifestation is not about creating from nothing, but about navigating a sea of infinite possibilities? Wow, that's a lot. What if we lose ourselves in infinite realities? And if there are infinite versions of us, then who are we really? In Jean-Paul Sartre's philosophy, consciousness is defined by the ability to choose and create meaning. But if every choice already exists in a different timeline, then is choice even real or merely an illusion? Hinduism and Buddhism also cover this. The concept of Maya suggests that reality is an illusion, a dream of consciousness. Maybe the multiverse is simply an infinite dreamscape, and that manifestation is the art of lucid dreaming within it. And if all realities are illusions, then maybe the true power of manifestation is about awakening from the dream. Let's explore the biblical symbolism and manifestation, the mystery of many mansions. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. John 14:2. Many manifestation coaches use biblical symbolism to justify the multiverse theory, particularly that verse. They interpret many mansions as multiple realities or timelines, suggesting that Jesus was referring to infinite versions of existence. But is this interpretation accurate? How does anyone know? Does this verse really support the multiverse theory, or is it a modern projection onto an ancient text? Could it be that many mansions refer to spiritual states rather than physical realities? Is the biblical verse, in my Father's house are many mansions, evidence of the multiverse or a metaphor for something more spiritual? I mean, Jesus could have been speaking metaphorically about different levels of consciousness or spiritual states. And in the original Greek context, the word translated as mansions is monai, monai, which means abiding places or dwelling places. It is related to the verb meno, which means to remain, to abide, or to dwell. So, in the historical context, mansions were not understood as physical places, but as spiritual states of being. So they might just be levels of spiritual awareness and not parallel timelines. Just something to think about. Traditional Christian theology interprets this verse as referring to eternal dwelling places in heaven, symbolizing the soul's union with God after death. Mystical Christianity views this as an invitation to deepen spiritual communion and ascend to higher states of divine consciousness. So, Christianity teaches that many mansions represent different realms of spiritual awakening, accessible through gnosis or spiritual knowledge. So, that's something to think about for sure. Is this just states of consciousness and spiritual growth rather than jumping timelines and assuming the version of yourself and the reality that you want? And if that's the case, then the journey is fully inward and nothing about it happens outward. Are we meant to just ascend through spiritual dimensions rather than manipulating physical realities? Because let's be real honest here. Most people get into manifestation because they want something in their physical reality to change, whether that's their financial situation, their personal relationships, career endeavors. We all get into manifesting because we want something out there to change. But the paradox here is, oh, you have to do all this because it feels good, not to get something out there. I've heard many coaches discuss that. Let me know if you've had a similar experience. Really, what we're trying to figure out here is, are we projecting modern scientific theories onto ancient spiritual teachings? And how can we ever be sure? All of this is just theories. But a lot of these coaches talk about this stuff with certainty, but they don't really have a better way to explain it fully. Just trust me, this is how it is. Sign up for my program. Buy coaching with me. If we are projecting modern scientific theories into ancient spiritual teachings, is this confirmation bias, or could these spiritual teachers been alluding to a multi-dimensional existence? And if that interpretation is true, then does that mean we can consciously navigate these realities, or are they merely reflections of God's infinite creativity? The paradox is both interpretations could be true depending on one's level of consciousness. And if consciousness is the ground of being, as idealism suggests, then realities are merely states of awareness, and we shift through them by expanding our consciousness. And so, what if the true meaning of that verse, the many mansions verse, is beyond words, beyond concepts, and only accessible through direct spiritual experience? So let's explore the mystery of the human experience here. What if part of life is just meant to be unknown? Again, going back to what if we're meant to be filtered, throttled, not meant to have all the answers? It's just part of the game, part of the matrix, part of the simulation. Maybe the limitations of manifestation exist not as obstacles, but as guides steering us toward a bigger picture we can't yet see. I've often heard the expression that we can perceive less than 1% of all that is. There's so much we don't know, but yet so many people sell us on ideas acting like they really do know, but they don't know either. And they're making a living doing this. So take all that with a grain of salt. What if we are both creators and explorers, manifesting within certain boundaries while still discovering the unknown? This implies that if we could control everything, would we lose the thrill of discovery? Is manifestation about mastering reality or about dancing with the mystery of life? What if the unknown is not a limitation, but an invitation to awaken our true nature? Now let's explore the paradox of control and surrender. Mystical traditions teach that the greatest power lies in surrender. In surrendering to the mystery, we align with the flow of existence rather than resisting it. This is all about going with the stream instead of upstream. You've heard these expressions. In Taoism, this is called Wu Wei, effortless action that arises from harmony with the Tao, the Way. Maybe the purpose of manifestation is to not get specific outcomes, but to just flow with the rhythm of the universe, whatever that may be. I actually don't know where the idea of being in a specific relationship with a specific person came from. Neville Goddard didn't really talk about it. I'm not a huge expert. I haven't read all of his stuff. I know that he did somewhat manifest his wife, but they already, I think they already had something going on, and she was open to it energetically. So he was good about making events and objects happen, but there isn't too much talk about influencing other people. If I have that wrong, please let me know. Send me a message down below so I can explore this further. I want to get this right. So if all this is just to go with the rhythm of the universe, then what is the actual point of manifesting? If we could manifest anything, would life lose its meaning? In existentialism, meaning is created through choice, struggle, and discovery. And if every desire is instantly fulfilled, then is there any room left for growth, surprise, or transformation? So throughout this, we just continue to ask, what if the beauty of life is not found in controlling reality, being the God of your reality, but in experiencing the unexpected? I mean, how boring would it get to just have everything you wanted? Like I Dream of Jeannie, if you remember that show. So let me briefly recap here. There's no doubt that manifestation is real, but its full nature remains a complete mystery. And maybe that's the point. Maybe our role isn't to control everything, but to trust the process, creating where we can, surrendering where we must, and allowing the great paradox of existence to unfold in ways that we could never have imagined. Let me know what you think. Are there limits to manifestation or do we have full control? Is the multiverse real or is it just wishful thinking? I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments and hear your perspective. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to connecting in the next video. Take care.